enough of the small talk. We're going to get right into the action. We're actually going to start tonight by talking about Backlash a little bit. So Backlash is taking place in St. Louis this year. Unfortunately, we're not going across seas or anything, which, again, kind of unfortunate for Backlash because I think the last two were pretty good because of the crowds that they were in front of. But we have 5 matches to kind of go through, so me and Drop are going to sit here. We're going to give you our predictions for the matches and all that. Maybe talk about the builds or for some of these lack of builds and all that. But yeah, let's get right into the action again as I repeat that line for a second time tonight. We got our Intercontinental title on the line. We have dirty-ass Dominik Mysterio defending his title against Penta. Mainly set up because not only from the Fatal 4-Way match we had at WrestleMania where Dom won, but they had a Intercontinental title match the next night on Raw, which a returning JD McDonagh, or JD McDonagh if you want to call him by his actual name, returned and helped Dom retain the title. And yeah, Penta's looking for a little bit of revenge there. There's still tension within the Judgment Day. I don't think anything's going to come to head here at Backlash. But Job, go ahead. Tell me, who do you think is going to win, why, and anything else you wanted to add with the story and all that?
So when it comes to my overall predictions for this match, I could say Dom, but I feel like just based on how things are currently going with the Judgment Day and kind of how things are shifting around, especially with Liv Morgan gone, which tends to be a consistent theme that happens whenever somebody's like going off doing their own thing. Usually shenanigans play out, and then whenever somebody comes back, you end up building that conflict back up again. So I feel like with that in mind, and just based on how Finn is looking at Dom lately when it comes to the sort of things that's currently going on, I'm going to say Penta, only because I don't know how they're going to run this back again and have Penta get another loss, because he has gone up against Dom before and he has lost. And we are coming to a point where even though Penta started off strong heading into the company, racking up a lot of wins and everything, I feel like we're getting to the point where he needs to get that leverage again when it comes to putting himself up there so he's safe for a little bit, because he did win recently when it came to one of his matches, but he still needs a little bit more than that. And plus, I just love drama, so I would like to really see how things unfold with this entire thing when it comes to Dom and the IC title. Because another thing that I took into account as well when it comes to the name of the pay-per-view, it's called Backlash. So you would think, just judging off of the name of the title of the pay-per-view, there would be some sort of theme surrounding that. And knowing how Dom pinned Finn to get the title to begin with, you would think there would be some sort of things playing in Finn's head, potentially wanting to get back at Dom somehow and really put them in a situation where the story between those two characters really need to start taking off. Because with Dom, I mean, he got his one up on Finn, so I feel like this time you need Finn doing the same thing. And plus, when it comes to the competitors that I'm looking at for the rest of these matches, you need some face coming out on top, because judging on a lot of my choices that I'm looking at, a lot of them are heel choices. So you got to have a face get some sort of feel-good moment with that. So I'm going to be different this time, and I'm going to say Penta.
Okay, yeah, I mean, hey, nothing wrong with being different and all that. Plus, yeah, you make a lot of good points on all that with Penta winning. I'm still going to go dirty-ass Dom, though, mainly because I think, because I know there are some reports coming out saying, oh, they're going to be putting Rey Fenix and Penta together as the Lucha Bros. So with Penta constantly being screwed out because of numbers, hey, why not call my brother? Let's try to even these numbers out just a little bit. Maybe somebody being in my corner a little bit. But when it comes to like the Judgment Day story and all that, I think there's more traction for Dom to hold on to that IC title longer and kind of get under the skin of Finn. Maybe more of like Dom's plans working out compared to Finn, because like with Finn, like you kind of got this feeling when AJ went to the clubhouse this past week that Finn saw something that he missed, that he desired again, and that something was through AJ Styles, and we saw him too, like in the background, talking to Roxanne Perez. So there could be something building all through there, because we saw him doing that prior to all this, anyways. With who was it again? I think it was JD he was talking to. It was somebody he was talking to in the back. Finn was. Or maybe it was. Anyways, that's besides the point. So I think there's just more traction with Dom holding on to the title than there is with him losing. And yeah, it's gonna suck because that means Penta eating another loss. But there are also the rumors of him of the draft happening, and I know Jacob Fatu also just got the U.S. title, but that scene might be a little better for a singles push right now. Or he could stay on the same show as Dom and eventually get the IC title. Just, I think story-wise, it makes more sense to me keeping the title on Dom moving forward. So yeah, I'm gonna go Dom for this fight. Next on our docket, we have the U.S. title. Like I just mentioned, we have Jacob Fatu defending against Damian Priest, LA Knight, and Drew McIntyre in a fatal 4-way match. Mainly set up because LA Knight wants a rematch for the U.S. title. Drew wants some sort of glory, and Damian Priest still has some issues with Drew. So hey, let's throw them all together, win the U.S. title, and be done with it. I'm pretty sure the U.S. title is also the only thing Drew needs to win in order to become a Grand Slam champion. Because I saw something this past week on the timeline that showed, these are the titles that certain top stars need to win before they're Grand Slam champions. And I think Drew was there with the U.S. title. I have to double check with that, but that's besides the point. I'm just going to go ahead and say my pick. It's going to be Jacob Fatu. I mean, again, similar reasons to Dom retaining his title go into Jacob Fatu. He just got the title back. There's more story with him and Solo kind of splitting up and feuding, especially over the title. It could be something where Solo does cost him the title, but I don't think that's going to happen quite yet. I think maybe a couple more months down the line, or if the feud is even for the title, which that would be good too. So yeah, I'm sticking with Fatu on this one. Who do you have?
So I'm probably going to say Jacob Fatu as well, because it doesn't really make any sense for him to lose the title at this point, because I feel like, since he's one of those guys, and I'll admit I do view him a lot more than Dom. Dom obviously has a lot more potential in the near future, but when it comes to somebody that could really nail a home run and potentially become world champion next year, I mean, all my money's going towards Jacob Fatu, so I feel like this right here is the building grounds when it comes to really showing how he is as a champion, how dominant he can be, the kind of matches that they really need. Because this is the first time in a long time that I could probably say that the U.S. title is starting to feel important again when it comes to somebody actually holding the title. Not saying that LA Knight isn't a nobody, because he's not, because I happen to be a fan of Knight. But I feel like with Jacob Fatu, just based on how much WWE is investing in him, and looking at how the crowd feels about him and everything, you could look at him as a legit player in the game when it comes to somebody being a dominant champion, knowing how it's going to take more than one finisher or all these explosive moves to really keep this guy down. And it's also good just to see the mid-card scene in this light, because this is probably the strongest it's been outside of, what we saw before, because before it was like the same people. Now you're sort of mixing in those people you took from that little swap thing that you did with Raw and SmackDown when you throw in Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre in there, which were originally on Raw. You can get a pretty good match out of this, because you had that ongoing beef between Priest and McIntyre that's going to unfold in here. Obviously, LA Knight still has issues with the bloodline ever since they started butting heads, but Jacob Fatu, I feel like, makes the most sense. And another thing I'm going to throw in here as well is I feel like there could be some sort of like story revelation thing happening when it comes to like the next level of Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, because You had that whole thing last week of Solo Sikoa like questioning a lot of things, and we also have a report that I'm gonna throw in here as well when it comes to the rumors of Jeff Cobb potentially being at Backlash. And one of the things that I was saying is you need to pair him with somebody because he can't really get over on his own. You can't just throw him out there like an Aleister Black or a Rusev, who people know of him based on his work in WWE before. This is his first time in the company. And if you want to throw him on somebody that's like steaming hot right now, that a lot of people love, pairing him with Jacob Fatu, starting this little dominant faction or whatever sort of direction that Jacob Fatu might be taking it, I feel like that would be a pretty good option. So that's another thing I expect here.
Okay. Yeah. Oh man, that would be really cool to see him come out. And I mean, not that Jacob really needs a bodyguard, because Jacob is a bodyguard in and of itself. But I guess just more of just backup for him, especially in these like multi-man situations that Jacob might continue to find himself in, and to have somebody that's a little bit more, I guess, maybe reliable than Solo. Because right now, because like with the story and all that, they could always push it to where like it's like, okay, Solo is kind of running the bloodline into the ground. I mean, again, the great Tonga Loa has been on the bench for a while. Tama Tonga's on the bench for a while. And yeah, they could really play that into a storyline with Jacob like forming his own group away from Solo. Not saying, you know, have a new bloodline, but I mean, kind of will be a new bloodline, and maybe this will open the door for Hikuleo to come in, because he's been on the docket for how long?
Like, yeah, it's been quite some time.
Yeah, so yeah, that'll be fun to see how that plays out. Women's IC title match is next. We have Lyra Valkyria taking on Becky Lynch. So this match was set up from WrestleMania, where Bayley was attacked and Becky Lynch took her place, and her and Lyra won the women's tag titles. The next night on Raw, they put them up again against Liv and Raquel. They lose the titles, and then Becky attacks Lyra. She's accusing Lyra of like coasting off of Becky's success, and how Becky needs to, you know, come back and just run roughshod on the women's division again, because hey, they're nothing without Becky apparently. And yeah, I mean that's most of the build for this. It's just built off of a very bitter woman and a rising star who was in her shadows, because they're both Irish ladies and all that. But Drop, who do you have for this contest and why?
So I'm probably gonna say Becky, only if Bayley doesn't interfere. And the reason why I say that is I feel like they're starting to set up something where Becky's going to have the title and she's going to have a little run with it. And they're going to have Lyra go on that sort of chase before she probably gets it back at like SummerSlam or whatever, because I feel like they're probably going to extend this rivalry further than just Backlash, given the two competitors that are involved with this and knowing the kind of work that they put in the build so far, because this is the first time that Lyra's actually been able to stand out when they actually gave her a microphone where she was actually able to talk and actually show some sort of personality. Because in NXT, she was able to do things like this with Lola, Roxanne Perez. She also did things like this with Isaiah Lee, other people like that as well, where she was able to express herself in that manner. Main roster never gave her the opportunity until now, which I feel like is a good thing for them to do, considering that she's familiar with this person. She knows who she is. It can get personal, knowing the sort of connection it is, which is one of the good things when it comes to rivalries, especially when it's one of those emotional ones, like a mentor figure, or whatever happens along the lines of that. Somebody you look up to standing, stabbing you in the back, you know, stuff along the lines of that. It could really help her break out of her shell, because you look at it where it's like, regardless if she says it or not, because she believes she is, and I believe when she says it, there's going to be those casual audience that's just going to look at her as a Becky 2.0. But this is her chance to actually prove how she could be somebody different outside of those consistent comparisons that she gets all the time. So that's the route I could see if Becky takes it, and then eventually it'll go along with what I said. But I could also see Bayley interfering, because it's one of those cliches that WWE does. Whenever they're building up to a match, they constantly nail it in your head when they bring up somebody's name during a promo segment or commentary or whatever the case may be, or if it's like, you know, a little tease on the screen, if it's like some sort of symbol or like some little static thing with, you see with the Y86, there's always some sort of thing where it's like always up in your face, and then once you get to that point, you're like, okay, I'm waiting for this person to pop up. Oh, look, there they are. So I feel like, you know, Becky can only talk so much shit before she gets her head rocked. So I can only see Bayley retaining if I can only see Lyra retaining if Bayley takes place in this to really, you know, just shut Becky up. Because one of the things that I took into that they've been doing is they actually were incorporating real life things into this storyline when it comes to how Bayley views herself as a wrestler. When it came to her on the Chris Van Vliet show, Becky's actually taking that, incorporating that into the storyline to actually add some sort of blend between reality and fiction. So I feel like this could also be something to really benefit Bayley in the wrong one if they decide to, you know, run with it or whatever. But that's one of the things I could definitely see. So I'm gonna say Becky. That's what I'm seeing right now. But I will say that Bayley, there is a good 50-50 chance Bayley could show up here as well, regardless if Lyra loses or wins. Post breakdown, she could always come there too.
Yeah, and I mean that's kind of where my mind is. It's like this one's the hardest one to really predict because it could go either way, and honestly, I would be fine either way with it. Because I mean, Lyra's held on to that title since what, January? So she's going on like a 4-month reign with it, and you know, give or take what you will about the actual reign, she's held it for quite a long while and all that. So you know, Becky taking it, a fresh heel Becky taking it, that would be nice. That'd be cool to see. But yeah, if Bayley comes back, it'll probably be a Lyra victory unless WWE decides to swerve everybody and be like, oh, here goes Bayley turning heel, but that wouldn't make sense at all.
No.
That's one of those Vince moves where it's just like just to get a pop for a pop.
I don't think I'd like that either.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. You know, but I mean, the idea is there, so I'm sure somebody wants it. You know, especially like because a lot of people have been criticizing Bayley too. I've noticed, like just earlier today, I saw something from freaking Jonathan Coachman saying
I saw that.
Yeah, like Bayley was boring and blah blah blah, generic, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, first of all, it's one thing to have an opinion, fine, cool, whatever, but like, don't state it as fact because I don't find Bayley boring. If anything, she's one of my favorite horsewomen out of all. Like, she's the most consistent. She's probably the best out of all 4 of them, and I will die on that hill. I don't care. But let's see, that's the thing. That's just my opinion with it, you know. But I don't know. Just I wouldn't want her to come back and turn heel, but
no.
And I'm still torn on who would come out of this winning because that's the other thing. Lyra already has a win over Becky. Like, would they make them go 50-50? Like, would they do the 50-50 booking, or would they do the thing like what they did with like Cody and Seth, where Cody was strong the whole feud and went like 3-0 over Seth? Like, could they do the same thing with Lyra and Becky? Like, could Lyra just be the one that Becky just can't beat? So, shoot. Part of me wants to go Lyra. Part of me wants to go with her retaining and maybe continuing this, but at the same time, it's just like Bayley would have to come back though. So, you know, just to be different, I'm gonna say Lyra. I'm gonna go with Lyra retaining, with a Bayley interference, I think. So, we'll just keep it at that. But like again, this one's 50-50. Like it could go either way, and I'd be satisfied. But one thing I'm definitely going to need to be satisfied with, or else again, like I told Drop before we started, we're going to have a bad time come Saturday's post show. We have Gunther taking on Pat McAfee. Now, this feud has been kind of building up for a little bit ever since Gunther shot Pat a mean, dirty look for yeeting on top of the table one night. And it just kind of came to a boil after WrestleMania when Gunther came out, attacked Michael Cole, and then choked out Pat McAfee. And yeah, Pat wants revenge. Gunther just wants to end Pat McAfee. They had a really good promo back and forth back on Monday. So if you haven't watched that or listened to it, highly recommend going back to that, because like, say what you want about Pat on like the mic or like in commentary and all that, the man could cut a good promo. Like that promo was really good. But I'm sorry. It's got to be Gunther. Like, sure, Pat's gonna have his hope spots. He'll get a few licks in and all that. That's fine and dandy and all that. But at the end of the day, it has to be Gunther, because I'm sorry, if Gunther were to lose to Pat McAfee of all people, I am really gonna have to question the direction of the company. I am really gonna have to question everything about the WWE company at that point, because it's like, what are we doing when we're actually like putting sports entertainment over the quote unquote sport of it all? But you know, that's a rant for maybe Saturday if that were to happen. But it's got to be Gunther. But go ahead and talk to me, Drop. Who do you think is going to win this one and why?
I'm probably gonna say Gunther, because it doesn't really make any sense for Pat McAfee to win this match. Because I would be like you, I'd be wondering exactly like why we're getting Pat McAfee the win. And I don't want it to be one of those things where it's like, oh, this is how you're going to set up Gunther and Goldberg, because that match is already set up. So you can get to that match at any point without having Pat McAfee beat Gunther. Like, Gunther doesn't need to go on one of those things like a Cody Rhodes or a Sami Zayn, because those two characters that I just mentioned, they're the kind of wrestlers that are built for adversity, like to have an adversary story. Gunther doesn't need any sort of thing like that. It's meant for baby faces, for one. And then two, I mean, it's just him venting out frustration because he's pissed off about what happened at WrestleMania. So he decided to take out his anger on Pat McAfee and Michael Cole. So it's like, you're going to have Pat McAfee go in there because he wants to stick up for his friends and everything along the lines of that. I just feel like you just going to have to, I guess, give him a few hits or whatever, so it's not completely one-sided. But for the most part, you know, this is probably going to be one of those things where it's like Gunther's just going to absolutely wreck him. And this could easily be one of these things where they write McAfee off a little bit if he has to do some sort of like side projects before he returns to television, which is a common thing that happens with him, especially around the summer, if anything ever comes up. So it's like, I'm going to say Gunther because that makes the most sense out of it.
Yeah. And again, if Gunther doesn't win, expect some hostility on this channel come Saturday. Oh man, but with that being said, we got one final match, the main event of Backlash. We have the WWE title on the line, a freshly healed John Cena taking on a babyface Randy Orton for the last time ever. This one's gonna be fun, and it's kind of been fun to see what people think is gonna happen and all that. And yeah, expect some slow, methodical action from this one, because that's basically what a heel John Cena is, and that's basically what Randy Orton's moveset and style is that slow, methodic pace. I mean, the history between these two kind of speaks for itself. You know, these two have been at odds for the better part of like 15, almost 20 years. Not quite 20 years, more like maybe 18, 15 years range. But they have history. And like, go on the WWE Network, Netflix, or Peacock. I think some stuff's still on there as well. Check out all their old matches, builds to all those. That's basically your build for this match. And really just Orton trying to, I guess, punch it into John. Why are you being a dick, man? Why are you being like this? This isn't the John Cena. This is a fake John Cena. This is Juan Will. But let me know, Drop, who do you think is going to win this match and why?
I'm gonna say John Cena because I feel like it's too early for him to lose his title straight off the bat, especially if you're gonna put it up against somebody like Randy Orton. Like, could you give him the title? Sure, but at the end of the day, you're not gonna blow that whole thing that Cena set up when it comes to all of the appearances and stuff and just end it at Backlash because it doesn't really make any sense to go in that direction. Like, I think at least most people would think that John would come out on top in this match because it doesn't really make sense for him to really talk all this shit and then lose it like that, because it's different from like another superstar that has a title that has that moment and then they lose the belt maybe a month or so later. But this is John Cena we're talking about, and they want to do something special with him throughout the year. They want to put him up against all these different kinds of people that he's had history with in the past. And I expect Cena to come up on top with this. I don't know exactly how, because he could easily do it himself. He's done it before. But based on this new persona that he has, maybe there's a couple tricks up his sleeve that we're going to be seeing in this match itself, which I definitely see happening. I'm hoping it isn't anything reminiscent of the WrestleMania 41 ending, because if I hear the fucking Travis Scott theme come on during this match, I mean, I'm gonna be pissed about that as well.
One more time.
Like I don't want any of that shit happening, because at that point, then you're really starting to piss me off, because you already pissed me off to begin with when it came to how everything came out towards the end of that match. Because it's different when it comes to him winning the thing, but a lot of people were mad how he got there. That was the real issue. How he got there, how the map was laid out for him to get there, because he didn't really have to do any of that to really get to where he needed to be. He's shown many times before he's able to get to point A to point B by himself. So it's like, I'm going to say John Cena, and I do expect a Cody Rhodes return probably after the match, unless, I'm going to say after the match, because I feel like you're not going to just have Cena come off the air and, you know, just raise the belt, and then you get that little fade in black, and then you head to the press conferences and everything. Like, you're gonna have to build something up with that following Friday. And I'm not saying this is Cody entering the title picture, because that's something I see probably in the fall when it comes to that sort of thing. But I definitely feel like, you know, since Cody is advertised for next week's SmackDown, you're not gonna just have him show up at the show. Cody's a big superstar. I mean, you didn't just have Roman show up at SummerSlam that one year. Like, I mean, no. Actually, let me rephrase that. You didn't have him just show up that SmackDown and then have him show up the following day. Like, you obviously wanted to save a big moment like that, because holy shit, Roman Reigns, you know, Roman Reigns showing up at SummerSlam, that's fucking huge. And Cody's a big enough superstar to have that sort of thing where it's like, okay, Cody Rhodes returns at Backlash, because I was talking about this with Whawkins off air. I mean, you're definitely looking at SmackDown where it's a show that desperately needs Cody back on television. And I feel like even if he's not having the belt at this moment, you need to have him on the show in some sort of capacity, because he is a needle mover, just like Roman and Seth and Punk and all these other people that are on the show as well. So that's also another thing I'm expecting to see outside of the winner of this match as well.
Yeah. See, this one I'm torn with as well, because, like, there's a lot of different ways that John can walk out with the title. And one idea I've seen being thrown out there a lot is the idea, and you might know where I'm going with this, slapping the referee.
Oh, yeah.
Because that happened during a match of John and Randy's, where Randy just goes up to the referee. Like, they had a little bit of a match, but Randy ended up slapping the referee, got disqualified, and even though he lost the match, he still kept the title and all that. So that's one thing that people have been predicting happening, and the reason I wouldn't mind that happening is because of kind of this. I hate saying this, because this is kind of the reason I didn't like the ending to WrestleMania. But see, the thing is, that was WrestleMania. This is Backlash. Backlash is kind of a few levels down from WrestleMania. Backlash, having a DQ ending like that, fits very well with the idea that John's trying to do here of, I'm going to ruin pro wrestling. It's like, okay, yeah, give us this really slow, really long that makes us all go to sleep, want us chant boring and then end it all in a DQ. Like, just that is so deflating. But I mean, for a show like Backlash, for a B show like Backlash, fine, whatever. Granted, it would suck because this is being billed as their last match ever. So I mean, they could do a rematch down the road, maybe at the next event or the event after Money in the Bank. But I could honestly see something happening where John might just get himself DQ'd and still walk out the champion, but losing the match and all that. So there could be a caveat with that. That's kind of why I want to go with Orton via DQ, because like that's a workaround that could have. Because with that, Orton still gets a win because he's going to be on the roster after this year. Like after John's gone, Orton's still going to be around for another couple. So he could, run with that a little bit. And plus, it still keeps that title on John in that way. And then after the match, maybe do a post-match beatdown where you kind of, I don't want to say you write Orton off, but at least injure him enough, in kayfabe, obviously. Injure him enough to where he's gone for a bit. And then maybe the SummerSlam rematch. Because we're probably getting John Cody at SummerSlam. Maybe have Randy come back then and kind of help. Because I feel like Cody should do it on his own anyways. But like,
he should
have Orton get his revenge around then, though. Like it could be like a kind of a Bloodline rules match kind of thing. Not again, not an actual Bloodline rules match because none of them are involved in that. But like something similar where it's like Orton does kind of get his revenge on Cena, but then you could tie that later down the road whenever we get to Randy and Cody feud, because it could be like, oh well, you couldn't beat John Cena on your own, you need Daddy Orton's help for that, So but that's something for like way down the road. That's all fantasy, all that stuff. But I think again. Just to have some fun with it, I'm gonna go Randy via DQ. Just because again, like I feel like we might go down that route. This might be a year where we get a lot of, like deflating main events because of John Cena and all that. And yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna stick with that.
The only thing I have with that is if it were to happen, you gotta have something captivating to end off the show. Outside of him slapping the referee, like a Cody Rhodes return, if a beatdown happens or whoever else gets involved, then I would be okay with something like that. But you gotta have something to follow up with that, because if it does just end the show with that, I don't know if I would really be happy with that, even if it's just reminisce of what Randy did all those years ago, which I get the whole idea behind that, incorporating Easter eggs and everything. But at the very least, I would want some sort of follow-up to lead into the next show.
Oh, same here. And that's why, like, with Cody coming back at the end of the match, that would make that a little more palatable, if you will. So, yeah, that's also, again, kind of like the Lyra match, where it's like that's kind of contingent on if Bayley comes back. The match ending, like, that kind of depends on if Cody's coming back, whether that's again palatable or not. But yeah, with that, those are our Backlash predictions, everybody. So be sure again, let us know in the comments down below who you think is going to win and all that. If you're here on the live stream, just let us know in the chat as well. We'll get to those later